Esoata Fundum in Lebialem Division. It is one of 17 fundums that make up the division. Esoata is particularly known for its steep hills, hot valleys, and landslides. The highlands experience cool and habitable temperatures, while the humid climate below facilitates the prolific growth of palm oil, coffee, and cocoa. But Esoata is also dogged by development challenges that do not enable farmers to achieve their full potential. The road infrastructure is dangerously on the collapse, health centers in dire need of structures and supplies, while schools critically beg for infrastructure. Esoata Fundum lies barely 60 kilometers from Chang in the west region, but is administratively in the southwest region. What strikes a first-time visitor are the steep hills and valleys that have given the Fundum a special character. Change is perceptible, but is viewed as too slow to fundamentally impact lives and the environment here. In the recent past, what was known here as a quasi-Holy Cross parish has been upgraded to a full parish. Springs abound in Esoata. The problem of potable water is only addressed because the springs have not been canalized to take this water nearer to its consumers. In the domain of education, schools exist, and some of them have been built to the standards of primary and secondary schools in the cities. Besides, the road leading to Esoata from Chang cannot be said to be in an entirely worthless state. A combined effort of government and the elite has given the Fundum a passable road. Despite the joint effort of government and the elite, roads in Esoata Fundum are generally of a sorry state, with victims never too far off. The worst of them are in Jengse, where even bikes face a stiff challenge from the atrocious terrain. In the neighboring Juakwi for Tabong Fundum, roads do not exist at all, and trekking must be engaged to go to school, market, or hospital. It is easily the most inaccessible area of Lebialem Division.
From here where we are, you have to trek for some 30-40 minutes before you get to Njogu. So there is no road, not even a motorbike can go there.
I think in Esoata, the greatest problem we have right now is the road infrastructure. And these roads get blocked during the early months of April, and nothing comes in, nothing goes out, except on head load. And notwithstanding all that the government has done to clear the road, like last year, some monies were allocated for the road, but after just a few months after the work, the road collapsed, and it's just being cleared now. And the most important thing which are not done are like putting laterite and the culverts. And that is the same thing which is being done now, and we don't understand why that is being done.
What do you think?
Each year, we spend 5.8 million francs for transporting of cocoa by head load. But since the road is too bad, at times we only move from Forke down across the Kupem Manuguba to Sancho before we could sell. So the
entire Fundum is inaccessible. The Esoata Culture and Development Association for the past year have been contributing money to dig road. And you know that for individuals to dig road is quite a very difficult process.
In the valleys below, temperatures are much lower in the part of the village known as Foreke Down. This is the area of heavy agricultural activity for cash crops such as cocoa, coffee, and palm oil. In normal circumstances, farmers here would have been leading fulfilled lives with the ability to educate their children and to see off life's other needs. But the reality is a vicious circle. Like most rural areas, health is a daily concern. With the constant exposure to the elements and the intensity of farming, illnesses are bound to occasionally put down these men and women. This lone health center caters for the health needs of the 6,000 people in this village. But as ill-equipped as it is, and with a 3-man staff, the center is insufficient. The consultation room, maternity, delivery room, laboratory, and injection room lack the basics for a structure of this nature. The consultation room needs water and tiles, and the maternity has no Macintosh on its mattresses. The delivery room has no water or tiles for easy cleaning. A cupboard is also ideal to keep drugs for delivery. The laboratory ought to have water as well as electricity. Some of the reagents need to be in the fridge. The absence of electricity means that some of the appliances cannot be set up and the sterilizer cannot be used. Here in the injection room, simple dressings and abscesses are carried out, but the absence of a wash and basin and sterilizer make work more difficult. The male, female, and children's wards are today empty, except for a student who is being treated for severe malaria. The pharmacy may have basic drugs to take care of his medical needs, but is also crippled by a non-working safe. It needs tiles and a functioning fridge to keep insulin and other drugs that need to be frozen.
The health center is poorly staffed. We have a population of 6,056 people inhabitant in this sort, and we have 8 community. So with 3 staff, 1 nurse who is me, the chief of post, and the laboratory technician and the pharmacy cannot be able to attend effectively on this population. So the first thing is the health center is poorly staffed. And the terrain, the geographical terrain is difficult. Most of the work is in outreach activities. We go out for outreach activities, we vaccinate children. And these children that we need to vaccinate them, there are 242, 0 to 11 months that they need vaccines. So we always trek to other areas like in Georgia, Abebua, Jensa, and vaccinate the children in outreach posts.
Esoata has benefited greatly from education. Primary and secondary schools are bound, but the sticking point remains the state of the infrastructure. This is the oldest primary school in this area. It is Catholic and is situated here at Foreke Middle. It trained the current crop of Esoata elite year after year until government introduced its first school here. It is government school Nzachen, which has not known decent infrastructure since. The story has been the same in Jengse Government School.
The most central problem is that of teachers. A school of population 326 has only 4 trained and posted government teachers as of now. The second problem is that of the buildings, infrastructure. We have some are already weighing out. So I wish to use this opportunity to plead with the authorities that may be, that if they could give some renovation grants to the existing and almost collapsing ones, it would be better. There is another central problem, which is that of the playing ground for these our young academicians, to be the young Cameroonians. The small field we have has big rocks, which will hamper the playing abilities of our children. We have again, there is no toilet for the children, which makes the place to be unhygienic for studies. We also have the problem of a drinking source. There is no water around here. If the children need to drink, they need to trek about 1 kilometer or more to get water. The school has done her best in providing buckets. So most often, every morning we need to send children to go and get the water.
Competition has meant reducing the size of classrooms and actually pulling others down that are surplus the requirements. With the presence of a parish now, the school will continue to operate for die-hard Catholics. Meanwhile, the arrival of the government school has not radically changed much in terms of comfortable infrastructure. Despite the old earth block buildings, the learning process takes place here with some outstanding results. While government school in Zachen has not known government assistance infrastructure, the same school in Foreke Middle has known some remarkable changes. A few classrooms have been built among the rocks, even though the process of wear and tear has begun to gradually set in.
All the classrooms are bare. We don't have charts and other teaching aids like toys and the like. A few textbooks.
Critically lacking here is a latrine that will spare the neighboring bushes from constant and daily visits. Aside from what has been provided, the school could have had more rooms were it not for the contractors who have not spared them from the syndrome of abandoned projects. By and large, the youngest of the learners have had the most blessings in infrastructure, although some other inconveniences exist.
You have passed through the government primary schools and you have seen the type of structure that the students are living in. This has been the effort of the parents only. The government gave some money for a classroom there, and it went the way it went into the hands of the big ones, and nothing was done. And the teachers are not there. And most of the teachers come and go. They are transferred back to the main towns because she is the wife of a delegate, a wife of a director, and so on. So the schools are understaffed.
In terms of priorities, we'll be talking of education as putting in place a befitting structures and getting teachers to stay there. And for teachers to stay there, the government must equally put in place some basic facilities to make life comfortable for these teachers. When they post them, they don't want to stay there. They come after 2 days, they are gone. They are gone for the whole term. So apart from education, which is structures, a defined materials, teachers, we need a health center. The nearest hospital from Georgia is Menji. It's 7 hours of serious trekking. So imagine that if you have a very severe case, health problem, to get the person to Menji, many die on the road while they are being transported to Menji. Thirdly, the issue of water. We are talking about cholera left and right and all of that. If you know the River Mfundi in Yaoundé, that's the nature of water my people drink. Without any treatment, no purification. The few that have some springs which are worth drinkable, you have to trek for 2-3 kilometers to get water to drink.
A government secondary school plus a private institution exists at different areas of Esoata. The comprehensive secondary school has been operating in Zanchen for 18 years.
Teachers here, they always like to leave the village and go maybe walking out of the village. And students, those that are even interested to learn here, they have problems of having good teachers to take them. And more to that, parents of the area too, they don't actually want the place to develop. I have to say so because unlike now, the few students we have here, they have not met up with their fees situations. And that makes teachers to scale away from the area.
Meanwhile, the lone government secondary school has been catered for in terms of infrastructure. The institution has a staff of 19, but only 4 of the teachers are trained. The rest are Parent-Teacher Association or PTA teachers. Beyond this, problems that are specific to girls exist, while others are of a general nature. Whatever the case, they do not help the learning process.
Yes, there are so many problems that female students face here. But I can say the most common is the problem of finance. Yes, and that results to so many problems, like the problems of pregnancy. At times, they are forced to go in with the male students. That means when they are looking for money, and the outcome are always pregnancy. And by so doing, they are forced to leave the school campus.
Especially as far as science department is concerned, where we don't have laboratories, enough science teachers, even though we don't even have a single, but they are doing their effort to see if they can cover up with other science subjects with their training session, starting from the basic level, using the effort to try to see if they can use that very effort to make students understand what is meant by science as far as science department is concerned. And when they are doing those things, there is no laboratory where you can easily go to find the experiment. We get the experiment through air, so we cannot easily know what is happening at that experiment. So I find that most of the children change their careers. One was a student who was able to do a science series. Since there is no science teacher, we find him diverting to art. So because of this reason, they have failures on their academics.
Most of the difficulties that Government High School Ngo Esoata faces are due mainly to its role setting.
In a high school as this, we can boast only of 4 trained teachers sent by the government. And we have a staff of 19, 15 PTA paid. So the very first challenge is that of personnel. Again, we have problems of parents sending children to school. They yet do not understand that education nowadays is the first husband or the first wife of a child. They think that it is better to make quick money since they have cash crop around. We have problems that some personnel sent to rural areas as this do not see the need to come and work here because they say the environment is harsh, difficult. Some come, take service, and they disappear.
While Esoata struggles to shake off illiteracy, backwardness, and underdevelopment, the village is today bedeviled by the phenomenon of rural exodus. There is rarely any house that has not been spared as the youth head to other parts of the country in search of a better life. But what better life when some of them end up doing the same tasks that they would have been doing in this village?
You see a lot of coffee, palm trees all over. If there were roads, these guys could settle back and develop their farms. And you see, when they leave to Kribi, they leave for Muyuka, they leave for Kumba, they go again and start doing farm work, leaving the very coffee, farming the very coffee that they have left at home, the very cocoa that they have left at home. So there is a lot here to be exploited, but these guys cannot stay because of the infrastructures. Electricity is not there. There are some of them who are doing welding. They could have come back to the village to settle. You find houses here, but no protected doors. So this is a problem. And we wish that if electricity could come, the road prepared for a seasonal or yearly usage, this used to come back.
The rainy season creates enormous difficulties here in Esoata. The worst effect is on the roads that are rendered impassable and dangerous for vehicles. The streams and rivers equally overflow, and when this happens, footbridges like this one are used to ferry persons and property across. Clearly, Esoata requires more bridges and culverts if there has to be any effective movement in these parts during the rainy season. Incidentally, agriculture is faring well in Esoata. Cocoa and coffee farms exist side by side, and palm oil is heavily produced, particularly in Foreke Down. However, there is a downside.
Me, I get plenty. I get one woman, and I get plenty. I get 15 picking them.
I have one wife and 15 children, and we manage our lives with this palm oil. In 1 week, we make 15 tins of oil, but where do we sell them without a road? For this reason, the oil is very cheap when we would have trekked for several kilometers to sell.
I would walk a long distance before we go sell the oil.
A story of Esoata will be incomplete without the mention of its devastating landslides and erosions. In Jengse, landslides have in the past few years caused incalculable destruction and desolation. The most recent victim in Go Esoata has been this man, whose home now lies in a precipice owing to a landslide. To make matters worse, a storm hit his house with such force that this newly built extension resembled a war zone.
If you look around, you will find that I started off by planting trees to resist the storm. But even then, see what has happened. So I don't have an answer to this. I think it is some sort of a national thinking and a global thinking to face these environmental changes and this global warming that should come up with solutions. We should not only be global, but they should also be local. They should be spread across the globe, because in Wabani, still within the BLM, it was the same case and all that. So I think the first thing is the Minister of the Territorial Administration listing all these natural disaster zones, identifying those living in those areas, and having some sort of a national solution which should
compensation.
I think so, because as I say, when you get to the lower part of Esoata, you will find that people lost homes, they lost animals, and here basically it is these farms and domestic animals which are the main economic resources for people. So I think that they start off first by making an inventory, and after the inventory trying to at least make some compensation to all of those who have suffered this, and then trying to see what are now the preventive measures, because it is not a one-time solution that can resolve this.
Despite the myriad of difficulties that Esoata grapples with daily, there is hope. According to the local member of parliament, their hope for a better and prosperous BLM should rest with support to the ruling party, which scored more than 80% here in the last presidential election.
You would have seen caterpillars working, So at this phase, they should add Zenchan about 4 kilometers from here. So the government is tackling the problem.
Over there at Ngo, we saw electricity poles, but there wasn't electricity. What's the reason for that, for the absence of electricity when there are poles all over?
Yes, that work was done without the control of Sonel. It was done some time ago. And when Sonel came, Sonel complained that some of the pillars were not well placed, and some of the cables were out of alignment. But these have been corrected, and Sonel has promised to come and put on the light before the end of the month.
Despite the momentous development challenges that stare Esoata in the face, the will of the elite is there to remain as the momentum that will usher in the required change. It is this spirit that has enabled the regular maintenance of the road and pushed government to provide the much-needed 15 million CFA francs for the renovation of the Funds Palace, 25 million CFA francs for the construction of the community hall, and 20 million CFA francs for 6 classrooms.